Good morning, folks. This is Jim Chastain with EasyPower. Welcome everyone to the EasyPower Tuesday Refresher. Today we plan to delve into the mysterious realm of custom panel templates. And as our usual pattern, we like to start with a poll. So I welcome everyone to kind of participate and provide us some feedback that we can help expand on this service to our tool users. And so let's get into the first question. That is, how often would you use custom schedules in your projects? How frequently would it be useful to utilize something like this? And it'll only take about 10 seconds to kind of gather this information, but again, I appreciate the feedback as much to know how to repeat this or amplify this in future refresher sessions. And I appreciate everybody participating. 5 seconds more. All right, and so here's what everybody reported. Let me kind of close this out, share it, and I appreciate the feedback, and frankly, this is why we're going to spend some time on this. And so my next question is along the same lines, and that is, how often do you utilize or would you utilize custom labels in projects? Kind of on the same basis, and very possibly we need to amplify the instructions to do custom labels a bit more often in this session, but again, I appreciate the feedback. So another 5 seconds on this one. Looks like we're close to the same split. Thank you all. Here's what it looks like. And then finally, same question as it pertains to title blocks on the drawings. How often would you use custom title blocks? And I suspect this varies more based upon the tool owners or the people using the tools. But again, here I think we probably don't spend as much time with the introduction to the subject and just kind of leave it to someone's devices to read the manual. So again, I appreciate the feedback. And as you would expect, probably more people, a few more in the audience would appreciate some feedback on and instructions on how to do the title blocks. So with all that in mind, let's kind of jump into today's agenda. So all of these subjects that we're referring to utilize a language called XML, and it's tricky, but it's not difficult. And what I will show in this example is, because all these schedules and blocks and labels exist in a template form already, if you want to customize something, just make a copy of the one that's there, make some modifications, test it, and then you'll be able to utilize the new version wherever you want to. As we get into this, as I say, it is a language that's well published and well documented in terms of the rules of the game. And what you're going to see me do is what I suggest is more of a hacker mentality, which is I don't need no instruction manual. I can figure this out myself, which I don't advise if this is an important element for your company. And I suggest that you nominate a junior member on the staff to kind of spend a couple, 3 hours to basically review the rules and then take advantage of what that means as far as being able to customize each of these types of devices. So today we're going to work on templates for panel schedules, and XML is commonly used to display computer data in an orderly fashion, and you'll find it frequently in web pages and catalogs, CDs, and programs like EasyPower, where you want to display some sort of a chart or organized data present and control the presentation format. What you're going to see me do is use a freeware, shareware called Notepad++, and any kind of basic vanilla flavored word processing tool would work, and it's almost like the less bells and whistles the tool has, the easier it is to utilize on an XML file. The advantage of Notepad++ is that it does emphasize the organization, so it's a little easier to read the files. And so the example that I'm going to go through is actually in the manual on page 153, and what we're going to do in this case is take an existing panel schedule that my client's asking for ArcFlash specifics, And to do that, I need to reference the arc flash variables, which in the manual will be on page 162. And I also want to put in the date and some other custom information. And this is also in the user's manual. So I'm going to jump into this. We're going to come back to this slide in a second. So let me kind of jump into the tools. First thing I want to show in the user's document, these where this example resides. And again, the user's manual is available from the start page anytime you launch EasyPower by accessing user's guide. And it brings me to this, and if I scroll into page 153, I see showing short circuit kill amps and arc flash hazards and panel schedules, which is the example I'm about to go through. If I scroll down and start to look at this, this explains to me the schedule layout, and these you'll see when we get to the XML template. This is exactly what's going on. Basically, the first few lines of the code defines column widths specific to a physical layout, and then it literally goes through the explanation of what the panel schedule is all about. The thing I want to note here, though, is when I get to variable data from the database, variables, they're preceded and followed up with a percentage sign, and so this is a clue as to what I need to do as far as including or replacing different variables if I want to add something. And so if I scroll down a little bit, I notice I get to the arc flash section, and if I want to use the incident energy, the boundary, the working distance, that's all included with this nomenclature. So I have to use literally this nomenclature in the XML template to be able to display this variable. And then if I go a little farther into this, you'll see there's some global settings, and somewhere along in here there's a reference to, I think it's on 168 maybe. I see a reference to the date and current date. All right, so that's another variable I'm going to be using. All right, so let's pay attention to that. Let's go back into my one-line diagram. So I'm going to pick up a file that I've already kind of drawn, and I know that it has some shortcomings in terms of the way the panel schedule looks. All right. Pull down two panels here that I wanted to modify the schedule for, just to show you how this works. To insert a schedule, I'm going to left click on the panel, right click in an open area and say schedule insert. And so here's the panel schedule for panel 3. Let's do the same now for panel 2 or panel 1. Select it, right click, schedule insert. And so in this case, I'm going to modify the panel schedule that's going to affect all the panels in my project. And what I want to do, I notice that here at the top, I have my voltage on the panel and the interrupt rating and the description that it's a main lug only. And what I'd like to do is insert a line in here that includes my arc flash. I've got a big hole over here, so I think I want to put the date and some reference to PPE. So the way I do that now is go out to my little utility that's called Notepad++, and I'm going to open up. Now this is where you got to pay attention. I'm going to open under My Documents, EasyPower 9. In this case 9.8, although it depends on which which version you're using. Right, EasyPower 9.8 templates, and I'm going to open up the panel schedule template. And as I do that, it shows me exactly what we were seeing in the user's manual, which is a description of the code, the XML code, which is behind all these this data. And if I get back over here to my example, all right, so here's what this particular code shows me, and I notice after the row that shows 480 volts and before the row that shows ML as my the main connection, I can scroll down here. I see here's where my column width is set up. Here's where some units are set up. And again, this is a hacker mentality. It's like I don't need the instruction manual. I can figure this out. Okay, here's my panel name, all right, which is the first row. Here's a /tr with brackets around it, gives me a new line, /tr, or rather tr without the slash, gives me an end of line, so I get a blank line. Here I got my voltage. Here's my amp rating and my interrupt rating. So where I want to put my new line is right here between these two tr, /tr and tr, which is the blank space. All right. The way I do that is I take a copy of this, so I'm going to save as, and I'm going to give it a new name. In this case, I've already created this gem panel schedule, so I'm going to open it up, and we're going to compare the two. So here's what the two files look like. Here's my original over here on the left, and the new one that I'm going to have created is on the right. And if I scroll down, here's my voltage, here's my main line here, and here's the new row that I want to put in. So I have a /tr, which I apologize, it's the end of row. So tr means I have a new row. I've given it some kind of clue with a little bit of trial and error to center everything in the blocks. I'm going to take up the first two columns, and I want to type in the characters SC, SIM, KA, and then here's my percentage and the specific data block, or the data variable that EasyPower will recognize. So likewise with every other variable I'm going to use. I take up 4 columns, I type in arc flash boundary, and then I put in the variable arc flash boundary, put in working distance, instant energy. Now back in the previous row, inside of that large blank on the right, I put the current date variable, and down on the next row in the large blank to the right, I put in text referring to the NFPA to tell people what PPE to look for. All right, so now as I save this file, I can then direct the tool to utilize it as it displays the new information. So I'm going to close and save this, not make any changes to my, let's kind of go back to the tool. All right, I'm still working on the original template. I notice here that it's not showing any breaker specifics. Part of that is because I haven't filled in that data. So I'm going to go ahead and use auto design to fill in the data for the breaker settings or the breaker sizes. And as it does that, we're going to do it for the second one, just to show off. And as it completes that, it'll change colors and come back to me. And now I can see my breakers are all filled in for the second schedule. All right. The templates that are being used for this project are defined. If I go to File, Properties, Schedule Template Types. All right. I'm using the default path that was set up for the library, but the template types because I have nothing designated, is using the standard templates. I'm going to call out a specific panel schedule, not the default. I'm going to specify it, and as I select that, there's a little ellipsis here on the same row. If I click on that, it takes me to My Documents, EasyPower 9.8 templates, and now I can see the new template that I saved. I'm going to select it, open it. It says, now you know when we do this, we're going to change the look of everything, so I'm going to say, okay, let's do that. Are you sure? Yep, I'm sure. And now we come back and look. I've got a new line here that says short circuit and blanks. It's put the date into the previous line, which is what I wanted, and then down here it's got the text I put in to refer to the NFPA table. What's next? Well, how do I get data in here? The way I get data in to these new variable sockets that I've built is I need to go to short circuit focus. Again, my one line needs to be clean to be able to do this. Under fault the buses, everybody pay attention because this is the tricky step. I'm in short circuit focus. Now rather than just fault the buses, there's a little pull down arrow by the bottom right, and I go to advanced fault and store symmetrical kiloamps. I'm going to click on that, and as I do that, it goes through and calculates everything in the system, and it fills in the variable for this panel for the short circuit maximum symmetrical fault current. Same process. Fault, pull down, advanced, fault and store, arc flash, and as it completes that calculations, now I've got my arc flash boundary, my working distance, my incident energy, and if I scroll down to my other panel, it's got the same thing. So, the other thing I wanted to do was give it a project name. So I'm going to go back and go through this process again. I'm going to go to Properties, put a project name in here. I'm not going to change now, just so you know this all works exactly the same, if I don't specify a specific, it goes back to the default. I'm going to change back, and my original template's being used. It's got my project name, but it's using the original template. So we're going to go back to Project Focus, Properties, Panel Schedule, Specified, and then search on the custom schedule that I made up specifically for this panel. Yep, it's okay to change, and everything's the way I want it to be. Now this applies to any panel in my system, and you can see here I've got one 208 volt panel and one 480 volt panel. The same thing would apply. Here's a panel here. Let's go back to my database editor, save everything. Let's go ahead and look at this panel schedule and verify that it's going to look the way that I want it to look. And sure enough, it's got all the same. Now, same thing applies to daughter sheets. So let's take this schedule off of there. Let's isolate this particular panel, put it on its separate page, call it panel 2. If I want to put the schedule here, I right-click, insert the schedule. Now it too will have the same format, the same template being used. So it'll have my symmetrical current, my arc flash boundary, my working distance, date, and the whole shoot and match. So again, if this is valuable to your company, I suggest that you assign a junior engineer for a couple hours to go out and research the actual rules on XML and not just hack into it like some people I know, and be able to repeat this on a customized basis, either by projects or by particular requirements from your customers. So that kind of completes. Again, we'll save this recording on the website, and you can view this later. The other thing I would suggest, and let me jump back into my PowerPoint, is the if you get to a point where you need some help walking through, say, the first one or two examples that you do, or if you have a custom schedule that you're trying to set up, you're more than welcome to contact tech support at easypower.com, and we can walk you through what it takes to modify your particular project. And if you don't do it that frequently, by all means, utilize us and we'll help you do that. On the other hand, if you do find this as a valuable service and you have to do multiple templates, I'd encourage you to develop the in-house skill. Now, for what it's worth, once that understanding of XML has been gathered by your team, that same application will apply as we get into the templates for the title blocks.